Welcome to the Shane Plays review, first look, what have you, of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual. Yay! Basically, this is the second core rulebook to release for 5th edition. The first one, the Player's Handbook, came out a couple months ago. This one actually releases sort of in general on September 30th. Today is Friday, September 26th. And you can get this through certain game stores that are in a network with Wizards of the Coast, or there's a few other ways. But in general, you can go buy it, just about anywhere, get it from Amazon, whatever, on September 30th. So just a few sweaty and eager days away. So here it is. Looks good, doesn't it? And speaking of good, if you like this video and you want to help support me, the best thing you can do is just give it a thumbs up on YouTube. If you're on YouTube watching it, just down there, a little thumbs up. Maybe leave a comment on the video. That helps me a lot. If you feel that it's worth liking. If you don't like it, of course, don't, and that's fine. There will also be a companion blog post at shaneplays.com, ShanePlays.com, and that'll have kind of a summary of what we talk about here and a photo gallery. So, anyway, back onto it. As you can see, as with the other book, the Player's Handbook, and as everyone is saying, the D&D 5th edition stuff looks great. I mean, that's a nice-looking book. We've got as with the Player's Handbook, they have the kind of the glossy and then the matte finish side by side. That's a nice touch. The artwork is great. I mean, if you're not going to put a dragon on the cover or something like that, behold the beholder. There it is. Boom. And he's not messing around. And I love the fact that, this book is all about the monsters. Because the player characters or the adventurers, they're not like, stand in glory. They're like, let's get out of here. And beat feet. Feet don't fail me now. And I like that. So it just looks great. Whether people argue over the rule changes of 5th edition, I think it's hard to argue that these books look really nice. I mean, they're just done really well. So kudos to them. Now, to kind of dig into the meat of what this is, the Monster Manual, as this says here, it is a menagerie of deadly monsters for the world's greatest role-playing game. So they're not holding back. They think this is good stuff. So opening up. Taking a look, there's your title page. You got a nice little dragon there hanging out, a little red dragon hanging out on a kind of a rocky little mound or there. Get hit with the credits and the legal stuff and then the table of contents. And over here we have an explanation of the cover. This is on the cover, Raymond Swanland, the artist. Congratulations, Raymond, for making the cover of the Monster Manual. Illustrates the Xanathar ambushing explorers in the darkest depths of Undermountain, which is kind of a, well-known D&D setting, proving that the Beholder Crime Lord's interests run deep beneath the city of Waterdeep. So I'm not super mega. I know of the Forgotten Realms and of some of the characters and stuff, but I'm not super mega familiar. But evidently, this Beholder is a named Beholder named Xanathar. It's a crime lord, so that's kind of cool. Let's move on, and there's just a lot of neat little pieces of artwork in here. I don't know how well that'll come out, but that's a frog eating somebody, so that was kind of neat. And there's just little stuff like that scattered throughout the book. So looks like I don't know. I'm sure somebody out there's counted how many monsters there are out there, but it looks like over 300 monsters and monster types. Well, no, those page numbers. Duh. So, let's see. Still still a lot. I'll look it up. I'll try to look it up on the video. Or on the internet before we finish to see how many monsters there are, but there's 150, 200, something like that. How to use this book? You get a few pages of explanatory. How to use the book. What is a monster? A monster is defined as any creature that can be interacted with and potentially fought and killed. So So even something as harmless as a frog or as benevolent as a unicorn is a monster by this definition. The term also applies to humans, elves, dwarves, and other civilized folks. So most of the monsters that haunt the D&D world, however, are threats that are meant to be stopped. They must be stopped. You shall not... Hold on. You shall not pet the... That was my foot. I'll do anything from art. Anything from art. Okay, so... where do monsters dwell? The Underdark, wilderness, towns and cities, underwater, planes of existence, dungeons, of course. Dungeons. What monsters to use, statistics, size categories. There's a note here that you can modify a creature. These are just templates. Types of monsters, aberrations, celestials, constructs, dragons, elementals, monstrosities, ooze, monsters that are monstrosities. Humanoids, undead. Alignment, armor class, hit points. So, just like player characters and non-player characters, monsters get stats. Speed, ability scores, saving throws, vulnerabilities, resistances, immunities, skills, senses, proficiency, just all kinds of stuff. Tremor sense. A monster with tremor sense can detect and pinpoint the origin of vibrations within a specific radius, providing that monster and the source of the vibrations are in contact with the same ground. That's cool. True sight. A monster with true sight can, out to a specific range, see in normal and magical darkness, see invisible creatures, etc., etc. Languages, telepathy, challenge. Challenge is a very important concept in D&D. There's a whole explanation here. And it basically explains how much of a challenge, how tough are these monsters. And each, like this, I'm looking at an Azer, which is, I'm just randomly this fiery looking guy here. Medium elemental, lawful neutral, and his challenge is 2, which means that an appropriately equipped and well-rested party of 4 adventurers should be able to defeat a monster that has a challenge rating equal to its level without suffering deaths. So that thing we just looked at was a challenge of 2, which means that a group of 4 well-rested, ready-to-go, second-level characters should be able to take that thing down without any deaths. So, talks about monsters that are significantly weaker than first level. Some monsters present a greater challenge than even a typical 20th level party can handle. So, it can get pretty crazy, but there is a system in here. If you're a dungeon master and you want to appropriately put monsters against your characters to kind of figure out, is this too tough, or is this just right, or is this a little tough and I want it to be tough. And of course the challenge rating also, there's a chart in here talking about the experience points you get. So special traits, just a lot of explanatory stuff that, some of it is like, if you've never played a role-playing game before, you're like, oh, what's a monster, why do I need this? And then some of it is specific, rules-based things, special traits, multi-attack ammunition, reactions, special abilities that can only be used a number of times a day or whatever, grapple rules, equipment, and then legendary creatures. It talks about certain types of creatures can do even cooler stuff and take special actions outside their turn. So it's not even its turn and it's doing stuff. Few can exert power over their environment, causing extraordinary magical effects to occur in their vicinity. So, pretty neat. Talks about a legendary creature's lair. And then we get into, believe it or not, the monsters themselves. And I'll try to kind of show here. Once again, it looks great. For every monster, you get the name. This is, they would make the first one something hard. Aarakocra, I guess. And it's this eagle-looking thing. It's a neutral grid, medium humanoid. With all of them, you'll get kind of an explanation of what they're about. You might get a little green box here with some even further information that not every monster is going to get. And then you get a stats block, just like if you're a player character and you have your character sheet. And this challenge is one fourth So I don't even know. How does that fit in? Yeah, there is a challenge rating. It's 0, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, 1. So, okay. So it's not much of a challenge. Aboleth, which is just nasty. It's just nasty. And that is a large aberration. So, and aberrations they're not quite demons. They're devils. They're like extraplanar kind of stuff, almost like Lovecraft kind of stuff, I think. And then you get a lot of explanation here on the aboleth. Then this next type of monster creature, like here it's talking about angels. And there's several sections here in the book where it actually talks about angels and kind of gives an explanation of angels. And then it gives different types of angels. So I think in this case there's actually 3 types of angels. So that happens a lot. Where it's like this is a creature type, and then underneath that type it talks about different types. So some of the entries are just one creature, and then some of the entries are kind of an overview of types of creatures in a category. And this Solar, this thing is a challenge rating of 21, so you don't want to go messing with that. It's a large celestial lawful good. A Solar is a godlike in glory and its power. Is godlike in its glory and power on the battlefield. The Solar's sword flies into the fray on its own, and a single arrow from a Solar's bow can strike a target dead on contact. They're just nasty. Said that only 24 exist, and this is kind of neat, like animated objects. Okay, and it's showing armor there, but you actually get animated armor, flying sword, rug of smothering. You know. That's the last thing I want to see in a dungeon is a rug coming at me. I just got to say. And kegs. So, Azer, Banshee. I'm just going to kind of flip through here, and I'll show some. I mean, obviously I can't show every page, but a Banshee. Banshee's looking kind of nasty. She's like, hey, what's going on? Blah. So, a Beher. A Basilisk. The Basilisk, they're looking kind of fat. You know, a lot of people said the new Godzilla looked kind of fat, so maybe that's the trend. Reptilian monsters are bulking up. And there's a lot of little, this is neat, a lot of these monsters will have a little note here. You can see these little notes, and I'll read some of that. Like for the Basilisk, it says, no one carves statues of frightened warriors. If you see one, keep your eyes closed and your ears open. And that's by X the Mystic's 4th rule of dungeon survival. And then for the Beher, I've already eaten 3 giant bats, 6 troglodytes, and a mind flayer today, but that's okay. Plenty of room in my belly for you and your friends. Lude the Beher, confronting adventurers in the lost caverns of Zolfkant. I don't know how to say that. So that's pretty neat. You know, not all of them, but a lot of them have a little note like that. So, which is like I said, there's a lot of just nice little touches that I like a lot. So then we get into the beholders. Here's another area where you know, it's a category of creatures. So it gives all kinds of information on beholder, and then it gives different types of beholders. You have the beholder itself. And then you have a death tyrant, which is a large undead, lawful evil beholder. And I don't want to run into one of those. Just got to say. For the beholder itself, let's see if the flavor text says, every beholder thinks it is the epitome of beholder kind. And the only thing it fears is that it might be wrong. And then there's a spectator, which are not as tough. A lot of people, when you first see them, you're like, oh, it's a beholder, but it's not. It's just kind of it's a lesser beholder that is summoned from another plane of existence by magical ritual. So, blights, which are sort of evil plant creature thingies. Bugbears. It's one of my favorite classic D&D monsters, the old bugbear. What challenge rating? They gave a challenge rating of 1 to a bugbear and a 3 to a bugbear chief. So, a bullet. I'm not familiar with a large. I'm not familiar with the bullet there. I don't know. Maybe you are. Large monstrosity unaligned. Bullywugs. Yay, bullywugs. They are a challenge of 1/4, neutral evil. Let's see here. Carrion Crawler. That's a classic right there. And that is a large monstrosity, unaligned centaur and chimera, or chimera, however you want to say it. The artwork is just amazing. Find some more stuff. The cockatrice is looking quite nasty. And then a coatl, which is a medium celestial lawful good. The coatl there. Do you want to cuddle your coatl? Cyclops, crawling claw. Ooh, with a Death Knight. And the Dark Mantles are cool. That's a cool dungeon thing. They look like, I never can remember, is it stalactites from the top and stalagmites from the bottom, or whatever. Anyway, they hang and you're, oh, it's a stalactite or whatever, and then it drops and attacks you. And then the Death Knight, which of course one of my favorite characters from D&D settings is Lord Soth, which is sort of like the Darth Vader of Dragonlance. And they use him in this little green box. They're talking about Lord Soth. But I like they made him a challenge rating of 17. You know, he's not to be messed with, and it's a great piece of artwork there. Let's see, a Demi-Lich. You don't want to mess with a Demi-Lich. So, challenge rating of 18. I don't know what the difference between a Demi-Lich and a Lich is. Let me see if I can find out. Okay, it says the immortality granted to a Lich lasts only as long as it feeds mortal souls to its phylactery. If it falters or fails in that task, its bones turn to dust until only its skull remains. This Demi-Lich contains only a fragment of the Lich's malevolent life force, just enough so that if it is disturbed, those remains rise into the air and assume a wraith-like form. Okay, so now I know what the difference is. Demons, talks about demons. Different types of demons. And I think if I remember right, back in the day, TSR, who did D&D before Wizards of the Coast bought them out, first edition, they got into some trouble, or, an outcry or whatever, talking about demons and devils and this and that. So they changed it to, there's some name they changed it to. It's basically the same thing, but, evil creatures from a different plane of existence. But it looks like they've gone back to demons and devils in 5th edition, and they may have in 4th edition for all I know, or 3rd, I just don't remember, but they're definitely back to that. Talks about different kinds of demons. That's basically, this thing is called a Belor, but I mean, it's Balrog. I'm sorry, it's a Balrog. And then you got all kinds of different demons. This thing is cool, this ape-looking thing. I mean, that artwork is great, and that's a Barlgura, and that's a challenge 5. But that's just a great look. I mean, it's like Gorilla Grodd the Demon. It's crazy. Got all these different types of just nasty blah. Shadow Demon. Of course, if you watch the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon, Adventures, it was Shadow Demon. This thing is pretty cool. The Yochlil, medium fiend demon shapeshifter. I don't know if you can see that, but that's just a nasty looking, this thing here. Yeah, that's nasty. Devils. So, talks about the hierarchy of devils and what they're all about. And devils personify tyranny with a totalitarian society dedicated to the domination of mortal life. The shadow of the 9 hells of Baator extends far across the multiverse. And Asmodeus, the Dark Lord of Nessus, strives to subjugate the cosmos to satisfy his thirst for power. So, gets in all these different kinds of devils, and they're just nasty looking. I mean, that looks great. That bone devil, that just, yikes. I wouldn't want that thing coming at me. This bearded devil is kind of weird looking. I don't know how well you can see it, but he's got a beard, but his beard is like made up of like barbed kind of things. So just all kinds of nice little touches. This chain devil looks pretty crazy. And then we've got an Irenaeus, I don't know. says, they live by the sword and kill by the sword. Their beauty is nothing compared to their wrath, from the book of Vile Darkness, talking about that. And then it just keeps showing more kinds of devils, pit fiends, all these different imps. Dinosaurs, got your dinosaurs. Displacer Beast, which is a classic. Doppelganger, that's always been one of my favorite monsters. And then a Draco Lich, which is an undead Lich dragon. You don't want to run into that thing. Shadow Dragon. Shadow dragons are true dragons that were either born in the Shadowfell or transformed by years spent within its dismal confines. I'm not really familiar with the Shadowfell or the dragon shadows. And then we get into dragons. Talks about dragons. One of the big, bad, well-known, not only creatures from classic mythology and literature, but one of of course, the big baddies from Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, it's in the name of the game. And if you're not familiar with Dungeons & Dragons, there's good dragons and bad dragons. There's chromatic dragons, and they are evil, and they follow colors: red, blue, white, black, green. Those are the evil ones. And then the good dragons follow. They're called metallic. You have like gold, silver, platinum, bronze, that sort of thing. And it's kind of, if it's money, gold, silver, platinum, bronze, it's a good dragon. If it's a color, then it's a bad dragon. But you got black dragons, and they all have different breath weapons. Like a black dragon spits acid. The blue dragon, which has always been one of my favorites, spits or shoots lightning out of its mouth. One thing I like the artwork a lot in the new Dungeons & Dragons, but I like the artwork for the dragon bodies, but the dragon faces, I don't know how well you can see it, but I don't like the faces as much. They seem sort of almost bulldogs or something rather than serpentine, beautiful faces. So, like that almost looks, I don't know if you can see it, but it almost looks like it has kind of a skeletal kind of face. Green dragon's a little bit more along the lines of what I would expect. The red dragon's done well. I like the face of the red dragon, or the snout. And then we get into ancient white dragons. Let's see, metallic dragons, brass dragon. The bronze dragon's pretty, and they gave it like little stripes or something. I don't think I've seen that before, but that was pretty. It's almost like it's getting like if you see bronze artwork, it gets green over time on it. It's almost like they're doing that with the dragon. It's kind of a neat touch. Ancient copper dragon. The ancient gold dragon's pretty. They gave him kind of the whiskers of kind of like a Chinese dragon. I don't know if you can see that. Silver dragon. Dragon turtle. A drider, which is sort of a drow mixed with a spider. A lot of classic creatures in here. I haven't seen a lot that there's elementals. I'm going to kind of speed through this. I mean, I could just spend hours going, oh, let's look at all these different creatures. Get a whole breakdown on drow. See, Ettercap, Empyrean, and Etten, the old two-headed giant. Fairy dragon. Hey, Ettins and fairy dragons. Some cool stuff in here. Hey, I'm not seeing a lot of creatures that I'm not familiar with. There's a few that I'm not familiar with, but over the I'd say, at least 75% is just classic, well-known D&D monsters. That's cool. The flame skull and a flumph. I don't know what a flumph is. That one I'm not familiar with. It's a small aberration, lawful good. A Fomorian I'm not familiar with. It's a huge, giant, chaotic evil. I'm not familiar with that. A Fomorian. Fungi. Galabdur. I'm not familiar with this Galabdur, this kind of earth elemental thing. gargoyle. Kind of flip through here. Genies. Ghouls. Giants. Goes through all these. It's kind of neat. Like, they have artwork here, the different kinds of boulders, the different kinds of giants we throw. That's kind of neat. It gives a giant comparison chart. The different types of giants themselves. A gibbering mouther. I don't know if it gibbers, but if I ran into that, I would start gibbering. I want to get that on the record. Githyanki. Githyanki plunder countless worlds from the decks of their astral vessels and the backs of red dragons. Githyanki. Githyanki actually appeared on the Fiend Folio way back in the day. The thing on the front of that was a Githyanki. Gnolls. Hyena-type creatures. Gnomes. Goblins. Brayark. That's goblin for we surrender, or so they say. Brayark. Clay golem, flesh golem, a gorgon. Ooh, that's cool. Few creatures that encounter a gorgon live to tell about it. Its body is covered in iron plates, and its nostrils fume with green vapor. Iron golems, stone golems. I have to say that this thing is a grell, and this thing is a grick. I don't know what a grell or a grick is. I don't know if that's new, or I don't know. Griffin, Grimlocks, hags. Ooh, a whole section on hags. Night hags, sea hags. So it's just nasty looking, man. Half red dragon veterans, so half dragons, harpies. There's work on that. Helmed Horror. It's only a challenge 4. Hellhound is a challenge 3. So, Hippogriff, Hobgoblins. Hobgoblin Warlord, Hobgoblin Captain, Hobgoblin itself. A Hook Horror, Humunculus. There's just, the point is there's just all kinds of cool. Hydra, Intellect Devourer. I mean, there's just all kinds of neat creatures in here. And I'm just a little over halfway through the book. I mean, you get a lot with this. Kraken, Qualtoa, little fish-looking things. Lamia, a Lich. Oh, the Lich. He's challenge 21. You don't want to mess with him. Lizard folk. Here's what the artwork for the Lich looks like. Let's see. When I first saw this artwork, I was like, that looks like Shazam fighting something. But it's not. This is the lycanthrope section, so that's a werewolf fighting some guy dressed in red. Werebears, all the different lycanthropes. I like the artwork for the were-tiger. That looks really cool. Let's see. Magman is a challenge 1/2. Small elemental. A manticore. Those things are nasty. Very nasty. Medusa. Mephits, like little elementals. These little mephits. All kinds of different mephits. Merfolk I'm familiar with. I'm not familiar with a Mero, I don't think. Mero haunt coastal waters preying on fisherfolk, merfolk, and any other edible creature. They're chaotic evil. So I'm not really familiar with those. A Mimic. Yay, the Mimic. That's one of my favorite creatures from back in the day. Medium monstrosity. Sorry about that. Medium monstrosity, shape changer, normal, and these things, shape-shifting predators able to take on the form of inanimate objects to lure creatures to their doom. In dungeons, these cunning creatures must often take the form of doors and chests, having learned that such form attract a steady stream of prey. So, and then X the Mystic's third rule of dungeon survival says sometimes a chest is just a chest, but don't bet on it. Mind Flayer. These are nasty. Also called Illithids. Mind Flayer there. These guys are always pretty crazy. Minotaur. I've always liked Minotaurs. In D&D, they're chaotic evil, but maybe there's some good ones out there. I don't know what a Modron is. Modrons are beings of absolute law that adhere to a hive-like hierarchy. They inhabit the plane of Mechanus, intend its eternally revolving gears, their existence a clockwork routine of perfect order. So, it says every 289 years, the entire multiverse goes mad like clockwork. Quint, Stormbellow, Rock Gnome Adventurer. I don't quite get what these Modrons are all about. I guess they're living, but they look mechanical. So, lawful neutral, lawful neutral, lawful neutral. So they're just about lawful. They're just, I don't know. But they look alive, even though they look kind of mechanical. Mummies. Mummy! That's a nasty looking mummy with a big old mouth. It's not a happy mummy. Quaggoth. Myconids. Myconids are intelligent ambulatory fungi that live in the Underdark. So those are fungi people. Nagas. Intelligent serpents that inhabit the ruins of the past, amassing arcane treasures and knowledge. That's a undead Naga. Spirit Naga. Guardian Naga. Ooh, the Nightmare. Look at that. Great artwork. Large fee, neutral evil. Alright. A Nothic. I don't know what a Nothic is. Ogres. Half ogre, and Oni. In nursery rhymes, Oni are fearsome boogeymen that haunt the nightmares of children and adults alike, yet they are very real and always hungry. It's nasty. Oozes, one of my favorite creatures. Ooh, an ooze. Black pudding, gelatinous cube, gray ooze, ochre jelly. Oh yeah. Orcs. Lots of orcs, nasty looking dudes. An owlbear. How can you not love the old owlbear? Look at that. Otyughs. That's just a weird one, the Otyughs. Back in the day, I was like, what is that? It fascinated me, but it was just weird. Pegasus. And Periton. I'm not familiar with a Periton. Periton. Although this monstrous carnivore feeds on any creature it prefers humanoids. Piercer. These dudes, clinging to the ceilings of caverns and large subterranean passages. Piercers blend in perfectly with natural rock, dropping in silence to impale unsuspecting foes on the ground below. And that's very similar to that other, I can't remember what that other creature was that kind of hangs. But I think when it drops, it actually, the other one kind of flaps out a membrane and kind of tries to cover you up and eat you. Pixie, little pixie. A pseudo-dragon. I got a special place in my heart for the pseudo-dragon. I had a magic user. We didn't call them wizards in first edition D&D or whatever. They were magic users, and he had a pseudo-dragon as a familiar. So, a purple worm. A quaggoth. I don't know. A rakshasa. Kind of a cat person. All right. Revenant. I'm going to have to... A rock, roper, rust monster. That's an old favorite. Salamanders, which in D&D, salamanders aren't the cute little lizard-looking things. They can mess you up. Okay, so that's kind of makes the point. I mean, there's just a ton of creatures in here, skeletons, and one thing that's neat is that they've done here, Shambling Mound. And there's so many creatures I could just spend hours going through to tell why I like creatures, or why I'm like, that's dumb, or wow, I love this one, or whatever. But one thing that's a nice touch, like they talk about skeletons, right? But then they don't just give you a typical skeleton. They give you skeleton, they give you minotaur skeleton, they give you a warhorse skeleton. Let's see, slides, specters, androsphinx, a sprite, succubus, incubus, so a Tarasque or Tarrasque, I'm not sure. That's like the big, super big daddy monster of D&D. I mean, it has a challenge of 30, so they're just, that's like the Godzilla of D&D. When it shows up, forget it. I mean, it's like even dragons are like, I'm out of here. Treant, Thri-Kreen, Troll, Troglodyte. So the point is, there's just a lot of really cool vampires, wraiths, wyverns, yeti, wanti. I mean, they're just, you really get a lot of creatures here. So and then they go into zombies. The last entry is zombie. The first entry was, what was it? Akatha something. Let me see if I can find it. Then Aarakocra to zombie. And you got zombie, ogre zombie, beholder zombie. They're making the point. It doesn't just have to be the typical human, like with the skeleton. It doesn't just have to be the typical humanoid. They have miscellaneous creatures, which statistics for various animals, vermin, and other critters. Ape, an awakened shrub. Awakened tree, axe beak. So I guess these are just considered more the fauna of, you got deer, but then you got death dogs. And what it is just a collection of stat blocks, so they don't have full entries like other monsters. You got frog, which has a challenge of 0. I mean, there's stuff in here that has a challenge of 0 even. Giant centipede, giant frog, giant fire beetle. So I guess this is stuff that just didn't qualify for its own entry. Giant seahorse, giant spider, giant toad, killer whale, hyena, lizard, panther, a quipper. What the heck is that? Quippers is a carnivorous fish with sharp teeth, so it's kind of like a piranha. Phase spider. Yeah, I'm surprised some of the spider stuff and some of the others didn't make an actual entry. Swarm of bats, so a bat swarm. And this will make a friend of mine named Matt Barton very happy. He does the Matt Chat video podcast. Swarm of rats, right there. Let's see, tiger, vulture, warg, weasel, warhorse, bandit, assassin. Oh, non-player characters. So now we're into non-player characters. So we've left just general creatures, and now we're into non-player characters. So if you need quick stats for, an acolyte, archmage, assassin, bandit, cult fanatic, commoner, berserker, bandit cabinet, etc. So you have that too. A druid, a gladiator, a mage, a knight. So you've got quick reference. Spies, scouts, priests. So that's cool. Just, if you need a quick NPC, you have that in here too. And then you have an index in the back there. And that's it. So that's the monster manual. I'm going to look up. I didn't see if Sturge was in. Sturge is one of my favorite monsters in D&D. It's these birds that they're kind of like the mosquitoes of D&D. They'll swarm down and suck your blood. First you're like, oh, it's just a flock of birds, and then all of a sudden they dive on you and they start sucking your blood. Sphinx. Sprite. Sturge. Yeah, the Sturge made it. I'm surprised they didn't put the Sturge in that back section. But there's the Sturge. And it's a horde flying creature, looks like a cross between a large bat and an oversized mosquito. Its legs are sharp pincers and its long needle-like proboscis. Slashes the air as it seeks its next meal. And then I'm surprised I didn't see a spider entry, because that's a really common. There's this H. Yeah, they didn't put spiders as a main entry. That surprises me, but they did put some spiders in the back. As common as a giant spider is to find in dungeons and stuff, I'm surprised they didn't give it its own entry. But anyway, there's just one final: the white and the will-o'-the-wisp. Will-o'-wisp. So once again, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition monster manual. A beautiful book, cool entries, great artwork. In some ways, I'm just looking through just all the information packed into here. In some ways, I feel this is a better deal at $50 than the Player's Handbook was. Player's Handbook felt a little overpriced to me at $50. I mean, that's expensive. This is also $50, but this just seems more, I don't know, more of a value at $50. Even though, Player's Handbook has all kinds of information in it too. So maybe either I just feel like maybe it took more time to do this, or maybe I feel like that I'm just getting used to the new sticker price for the D&D books. So that's it. That's the Monster Manual, the 5th edition Monster Manual. If you're going to play 5th edition, or if you just like pretty role-playing games books, there's a lot of times I just collect role-playing game books and not actually play the game. So, you might, if you're a completist, a collector, you may want it. Or if you're just fascinated with all these different creatures and if you're a writer or whatever, and you want story ideas. I mean, this is just chock full of cool creatures and stuff like that. So, it's easy to recommend this book. It's very pretty, very cool. I appreciate you watching. Thanks so much for watching this video. Once again, don't forget there will be a companion blog post at shaneplays.com. And then, if you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up on YouTube, thumbs up, and leaving a comment. I would really appreciate it. But most importantly, I just really, really, really appreciate you watching. Thank you.